Alright, in this video, this is the custom calendar from scratch part 8, and we're going to talk about the other rows. And what I mean by other rows are the remaining rows that we have in our calendar here, and we're also going to talk about getting the color overlap to work from here down to here, where we overlap in this case into January of 2019. There's two globals that we need here, text globals, OTH rows, that stands for other rows, and ORD color, other row date color, if you want to think about it like that. These are quite long codes, and if you go over to my free stuff and you look underneath the custom calendar folder, you will see two text documents here. Go ahead and open those up. This one over here on the left is the long code for the other rows to get all of the numbers for the other rows of our month. Feel free to copy and paste that over, and then here is the text global over here for our other row date color. This will give us the correct colors for our dates on our calendar when we start overlapping into the next month. Inside of my calendar from scratch part 8 component underneath globals, I have already applied those two globals right here. And again, those codes are quite long. Look at other rows inside of the formula editor. If I scroll up through this, it's extremely long. Once you have those copied over, let's go over to items, go into everything, and let's add a new stack group, and we're going to put all of our rows inside of this stack group. So I'm going to take that stack group, rename it, and I'm going to call it all the rows. Now, let's take row 1, let's cut and paste this into this new stack group that we call all the rows. So inside of all the rows, I'm going to paste that, and there we go. Now what I also want to do for all the rows here, I'm just going to go to layer and I'm going to vertically center, though we don't necessarily have to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. And back inside of this new stack group here, I'm going to copy and paste row 1, but I'm going to rename this and I'm going to call it other row. Now here is the power of those long codes. Inside of this other row that we can see right here, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to move this text item down below. We are going to use the number of days in the month right here in a moment. But back inside of these rows, this other row, I'm going to come here and I'm going to delete everything except for one item. And we're going to see the power of the SI module index. So all we have is one number here. Let's go into this, let's go to its text, and let's go change this code to other rows. So I see a 2. That's looking good because this is going to be the first number on my next row, and notice Saturday was December the 1st, so my first number here should be 2. Let's go change the color of this. For our color now, we don't want row 1 color, we want to do the other row date color, ORD color. Make sure I delete that L there. So we do have that white, that's good. And now check this out. So once we create that one piece on this row, let's copy and paste this overlap group that has that number inside of it. So we've changed the code for the number and the color. I'm going to copy and paste this until I fill up that row. Now here's where it gets real crazy. Let's back out of here. Let's copy this row we just created and wait for it. Copy, paste. Check this out. We've just built our entire calendar just like that. Now let's talk about how these codes work. And actually before I do that, later on in this series I will show you how we can remove rows if we have too much overlap, but in this case here, 6 rows is going to be the most that you need for any calendar because it can span over for 6 weeks. Notice we have December the 1st here and the 31st down here, so it spans over 6 weeks, not 6 entire weeks obviously, but hopefully you see the idea. But sometimes we may need to get rid of this row. That is coming later on in this series. What I want to focus on now is how are these numbers working the way they work. And to explain this to you, I'm going to have this Word document over here. This is how we get our other rows, the numbers for all of the rest of our dates on our calendar. And if you look inside this code, you will notice that we have a SI module index 2 and a SI module index 1. The SI module index 2 refers to the index of these items that you see here, the rows themselves. Row 1 has an index of 0 inside of this stack group. This one here has an index of 1, index of 2, index of 3, index of 4, index of 5. Yes, we have 6 rows here, so we have an index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This refers to the SI module index, comma 2. Now the SI module index, comma 1, if we jump inside of a row, for example, I'm going to jump into this second row that we see right here. Now this index is 1. SI module index, comma 2, that is going to be 1. Now when we look at SI module index, comma 1, that's going to refer to each individual item that we have inside of this row. To explain that further, let's just jump to a random number. For example, how are we getting 8 to work? How is 8 showing up? Well, there's a couple of things we want to know. First of all, we need to know, is Sun First on? Well, Sun First is on because Sunday is the first day of the week. Now, FDOM, we talked about this earlier in the series. FDOM is the first day of the month, and we're talking about a day of the week where the first day of the month falls on. Well, December of 2018, the first day of the month for December 2018 falls on a Saturday. FDOM is equal to 6 right now. So let's go to our code in here. We don't want to use this line or this line, but we want to use either this one or this one. Which one do we want to use? We want to use this one because Sun First is on, Sun First is not off. If it was off, we would use this code. So let's focus on this code here. Sun First is on, first day of the month is a Saturday, which represents that 6 right there. But we have even more conditions to follow as well. Notice Sun First has to be on, and GVF DOM equals 6. Good. And now 7 times SI module index, comma 2. Since we are on the second row, if I come back to all the rows, this second row that you see right here, this has an index of 1 because it's the second item in this list of items. So this index, SI module index, comma 2, right now inside of this row, that is a 1. 7 times 1 is 7, minus, now we have 6 minus SI module index, comma 1 plus 1. Is this less than or equal to the number of days in the month? Yes, it's going to be, but let's talk about what this number actually is. So looking right here in these parentheses, we got 6 minus SI module index, comma 1. So I'm talking about this 8. This 8 is the very last item inside of this list. It has an index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So look at this formula yet again. 6 minus 6 gives us 0. What did we get back here? We got 7 minus 0 is 7 plus 1. That gives us 8. Is 8 less than or equal to the number of days in a month? The number of days in a month is 31. So clearly this is true. Finally, what we can do, notice that answer that we got from this piece here, all of this equaled 8. Well, that's exactly what I'm returning. 7 times SI module index, comma 2. That's 7 times 1 because the second row has an index of 1, minus, and inside of here, these parentheses that you see here, 6 minus the index of that particular date. This particular date has an index of 6 inside of this row. So 6 minus 6 is 0. So we have 7 minus the 0 plus the 1 gives us the 8. All right. Does that make sense? Let's look at another one. Let's come on down here to, say, right here. Notice once we get to this row, on this particular date, that's actually January the 2nd. So we should be getting a 2 here because we don't want to go 31, 32, 33. We want to see a 2 here. Let's see how we get that. So to do that, let's back out of here and let's go to our rows. Here's all of our rows, and I want to go to the last row. This is row 6. This index, row 6, has an index of 5. That is going to be our SI module index, comma 2 that we see in all these codes. So SI module index 2, anywhere in this code represents the index of the row that we are on. Now, SI module index, comma 1 is going to represent the index of each individual item in the row. Since we're talking about this one, this is the 4th item in the row. It has an index of 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. So bear that in mind. SI module index, comma 2 is 5, and then the index of this item inside of here is 3. Now, let's look back at this code again and see why we're not going to use this. You may say, well, Sun First is still on. The first day of the month is still 6 because we're still on December. The first day of the month is a Saturday. But look at this part of the code right here. Let's work all this out mathematically. 7 times the index of the row. 6 row has an index of 5. 7 times 5 is 35. Now let's look at this part. 6 minus the index of our date in the row. The index of our date in the row is 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. 35 minus 3 is 32. Plus 1 gives us 33. This is not less than or equal to the number of days in the month. So we don't want to use this code anymore. Had we used that code, we would have returned a 33, and we don't want 33. So let's scroll on down through our code and find somewhere else where we have this part right here. Sun first is on, and the first day of the month is a Saturday. The second page on this Word document has the code that we need, and it's this one right here. Sun first is on, first day of the month is a Saturday, and look at our code here. Same exact code. 7 times 5 is 35 minus, well, inside of here, remember this was 6 minus 3, so it's 3. 35 minus 3 is 32. Plus 1 gives us 33, and this is greater than the number of days in the month. So now, this is how we're getting ready to get this 2. Check out this code. 7 times SI module index comma 2. Well, that sounds familiar. This is the 35 again. Minus, look, it's the same code for the most part till this very next piece right in here. So look at all this. We got 35 minus 3 up to right there, plus 1, that gives us 33. And then let's subtract the number of days in the month that we're on. The number of days in the month that we currently are on is 31. So if we take 33 minus 31, we get 2. Crazy, right? Let's bump over to another month and let's cut Sun first off, just to show you how all these codes are working. So I'm going to bump up to May of 2019. I'm going to go back to my globals and cut Sun first off. And May of 2019 is one of those examples where I'll show you later in the series that this extra row here, maybe you don't want to see that because there's no dates on this row that pertain to May of 2019. That right there is pure overlap for June of 2019. But anyway, let's focus on the 25. How do we get this 25 for May of 2019? Well, first of all, Sun first is off, and our first day of the month is a Wednesday. Wednesday represents a 3 in our FDOM code. So let's look and see where we have Sun first being off. First day of the month is on a Wednesday, which is 3. Let's check out this code right here. Sun first equals 0. That means Sun first is off. First day of the month, Wednesday, so that equals 3. And now let's talk about this 24. How do we get 24? Well, let's check and make sure this code is going to be less than the number of days in a month. It should, because we're hopefully going to get a 24 here. So let's check out 7 times SI module index comma 2. SI module index comma 2 is the index of the row that we are currently on. So this row here is row 4. It has an index of 3. 7 times 3 is 21. So we get 21 right here. Now looking inside of these parentheses, we want 6 minus the index of the date that we are on in that row. Here's the 24th. It is item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So its index is a 4. If we take 6 minus 4, we get 2. 21 minus 2 is 19. And then we add 5. Look at what we get. We get 24. Is that less than or equal to the number of days in a month? 31 days? Absolutely. So check it out. This thing that we're returning right here is the exact same code as what we have right here. And remember, we just got a 24, right? So that's why we have a 24 right there. Let's come to this 1. Let's see how we get 1, which is an overlap into June of 2019. So same conditions. Sun first is off. First day of the month is 3 because we're on a Wednesday. Let's go jump to this 1. So going back to my items, everything, all the rows, let's go to the next to the last row. This is row number 5. So SI module index comma 2 is now 4. This row has an index of 4. This item inside of this row has an index of what? Well, it's item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so its index is 5. Keep that in mind. Now, since we know we're going to overlap here, let me show you where the mistake can come in. The reason why we're not going to use this code, the same code that we just used to get 24, if we do the math now, 7 times SI module index comma 2, well, remember, what row are we on? We're on row 5, so its index is 4. 7 times 4 is 28. 6 minus the index of our particular date that we're on. The index of this date is going to be 5 because it's item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, giving it an index of 5. 6 minus 5 gives us 1. 28 minus 1 is 27, and 27 plus 5 is 32. 32 is not less than the number of days in the month. So we don't want to use this code here. So if we scroll to our second page probably, here's the code that we do want to use. Sun first is off, first day of the month is a Wednesday, and it's the same code again right there. 7 times the index of our row, that's 4. 7 times 4 is 28. 6 minus the index of our date. The index of our date here is 5. 6 minus 5 gives us 1. 28 minus 1 is 27. 27 plus 5 is 32. This is greater than the number of days in our month. Therefore, we want to take that 32, which is all of this. That code right there that's highlighted is the same thing we just talked about right here. If we take 32 and we subtract the number of days in the month that we're on, there's 31 days in the month that we are on. 32 minus 31, boom, gives us a 1. So by me going through several examples here with sun first being on, sun first being off, going through random days of the first day of the month and doing the math, if you're really serious about learning about this calendar, I would encourage you to, try to do this multiple times to see how this math is always going to work out. And with that said, let's talk about the other row date color. How are we getting the white and how are we getting the gray? Well, first of all, earlier in the series, we created 2 color globals, the overlap color and the normal color. The normal color is the white that you see here. The overlap color is the gray that you see here. Now you're going to recognize some of these codes now if you've really been watching this and studying those other codes from the longer document we just looked at. Let's look at the 1 again, okay? Some of the same math is getting applied here. So let's look at this code right here. Sun first is off because Monday's the first day of my week. FDOM is equal to 3 because our first day of the month is on a Wednesday. And look at the code. Does that look familiar or what? It's the same thing. When we take 7 times 4, we get 28 because we're still on this row. This is the 5th row. The 5th row has an index of 4. So 7 times 4 is 28. Inside of here, we get 6 minus the index of the date that we are on. We're on this date here. Its index is 5. 6 minus 5 gives us 1. 28 minus 1 is 27. 27 plus 5 is 32. That is greater than the number of days in the month. And since it is, if you look at all the rest of these codes, we have a OR. We have the little pipe at the end of each line that I have here. So if any of these conditions are true, which we just found a condition that was true, all of these conditions here, if any of these are true, we're going to use the overlap color. An OR statement is true when just one statement is true, but it's false when all of them are false. And we're getting ready to see that with the normal color. Let me unlock my phone again. So let's look at an example of 31. All right, this 31. Notice we got a white color now. So I want to get my GV normal color. The only way we can get GV normal color is if all of these OR statements are false. Well, which statement are we looking at? We're still looking at the same one because GV sun first is still off. Our first day of the month is a Wednesday, which is a 3. So now if we run this code here, we're going to realize that it's not greater than the number of days in the month. It's not going to be greater than 31 that you see right here. Let's double check that. We're still on the 5th row. The 5th row has an index of 4. So 7 times 4, we still get 28. Inside of here, be careful with your index here. 6 minus the index of the date that we are on. We are on the 31. That is item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So its index is 4. 6 minus 4 gives you 2. 28 minus 2 is 26. 26 plus 5, that's exactly 31. So notice that is not greater than the number of days in a month. It's actually equal to it. So this is the only line of code that's going to get run for that specific date there. And since that's not true, none of these other ones are going to be true either, because the sun first or the first day of the month, it's going to return the GV normal color. Now, if you're serious about learning this calendar, you're probably going to have to go back and rewatch several parts of this video. You've probably already done that up until this point anyway. But yeah, that's the two longest codes in this entire calendar. And I didn't even mention this, but now that I'm just sitting here cycling through, we're going through our calendar. And I just tap that month up there to go back to the current month. All of this stuff is working. So some things that we have left to do are the agenda, getting a dot to show up when we have an event for a particular day. And we also need to come in here and see, December 2018. Today is December the 6th when I'm recording this video. So I want to see a circle on this, and that's what we're covering. So we still have a lot left, but now what you have here is a full-fledged calendar that will, cycle through all the months, all the years. And again, you can just tap up here to go back to the current month. And there you have it. That's the tough one, part 8 to creating a custom calendar from scratch. And that's it for this video. I hope it helped.